Greetings and welcome to Hot Topics from the Soul. Tonight, change. Can you handle it? There's so much going on. We're in the middle of election. And look, I voted today. So I'm walking the walk. I'm telling people to go and do early voting. It's chaotic out there. There's a lot going on. So we want you to go out and vote. I have my co-host with me.
And good evening. And yes, change is in the air and change is inevitable. It's going to happen one way or another. The reality is the fact, are we ready for change? Can we handle change? Are we as resilient as and flexible as we need to be? And it's so important. And I'm going to salute you. I actually voted last week because I did not want to be in the hustle and bustle on November 5th. And I definitely did not want to get caught up in very long lines. And it is something to behold when you realize that you just took place in a process that affects the outcome of everything around you.
Absolutely, Dr. J. And it's scary and liberating all at the same time. And, we really, really need to get out and vote. We don't, on this platform, we don't tell you who to vote for, but we say we want you to exercise your right. This month, so much is going on. There's domestic violence awareness, cancer
Exactly.
awareness, and we're prepping people to get to the polls.
Absolutely. And it's been important. The last few weeks we've done shows that dealt with the fact of understanding the amendments and understanding those things that are on the ballot. So often, we may watch commercials and things and we hear the propagandas, we see those things happen, but it doesn't always give us a clear understanding of what we're voting for or really the nuances that are around it. And so I thought the last two shows have been very great as we unpack what did they mean. At least you had a clarity. And we discovered something. We discovered that there were certain commercials that would say one thing, but when you actually read the amendment, it didn't say that at all. And so we have to be very careful of what the propaganda may look like so that we'll have understanding. But even greater, Dr. Val, one of the things that you brought up on the other week is that we talked about the fact of how so many times people have a tendency to overlook, if you would, what may seem to be smaller races, smaller offices or smaller agendas or what may appear to be that. And those are the things that affect people mostly locally like never before. And particularly, we see it happen a lot when we look at that election ballot and they say things like, do you want to retain these judges or not retain these judges? And on that line of judges, people say, well, judges, well, I didn't even know they was even there. Let's all retain. And so and it speaks to the fact that we generally don't know. We hear the word judge and we hear the word judge, and we get all kind of images in our mind. Judge Judy, Judge Mathis, Judge Brown, and we get those images in our mind and those reality television shows. But in actuality, there are judges. There are judges that we have both in the civic court, the circuit court, the county court. We have judges on every single level, and they definitely play a big part inside of our communities, inside of our if you would, our judicial system. And it's important to know what those offices are and why they are so important. And that's why I'm excited tonight, as we've given extended opportunity to others, to be able to hear a little bit more about the county judge. What is the county judge? How does that differ from the circuit judge? How that does differ from other things? And who in the world would want to be that and why? And I think that's very important. And that kind of leads us into our guest tonight that we have with us tonight. And that's none other than Jean Marie Middleton. We welcome her to the show, the attorney Jean Marie Middleton. We welcome her to the show tonight.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you for having me.
Delighted to have you. And, talking about these different seats and things, going to enlighten the audience about who you are and why, how you're coming to the table in this season of your life.
Well, thank you again. I am Jean Marie Middleton. I'm an attorney. I've been a licensed trial attorney for over 38 years.
Wow.
I currently have the pleasure of serving as an assistant general counsel for the Palm Beach County School Board. But prior to that, I've served as an assistant city attorney for 3 different municipalities: Lake Worth Beach, Miami-Dade, and Fort Wayne, Indiana. I've also served the Legal Aid Society. In my 38 years, I've served 2 Fortune 500 corporations, and I've also served 2 of the largest school districts, Miami-Dade as chief of litigation and the Palm Beach County. And I've also served the Legal Aid Society of Palm Beach as well as in private practice.
Wow.
Uh,
Well,
Wow.
that's
You are a
that's
true
quite-
queen.
Thank you. I think that's one
And
of
I'm
the
so
things that-
proud.
Thank you.
I'm so proud to have a woman that has so many accomplishments in her field. Thank you so much for your perseverance and your courage to do what you're doing.
Thank
Well,
you.
Well, you definitely put the lid on the fact of whether or not you're qualified or not. I mean, it's obvious that you are inside of that, and we know that that did not happen with just a stroke of a pen or because somebody just just called your name, but the effort that you put forth. One of the things that's impressive to me is the fact of in the different manners and different capacities that you have served inside of it, because all of them represent a different part of our society. You talk about everything from education to school board. You talk about being general counsel. You talk about Fortune 500 companies. You're talking about all those things, and each of those things there has a certain mindset, skill set, and those things that are involved in. Now we're talking about the county judge. Give our audience a little bit about the county judge and what is that all about? Because, like I said, once again, we hear different judges. We talk about county judge, circuit court judge. We talk about the different judges and things, and so how do people really get to understand these positions and why they're important to be consider when people are voting? Because once again, I've seen it happen. I have people call me and they go, well, what should I vote for? And I don't like that. I say, well, you should vote for everything on the ballot, but they don't understand. So they'll go, well, what about these judges? And they'll ask those questions because most people don't understand inside of that. So give us a little rundown about that. And I do understand, I think we learned this the other week as well, that, in running for judge, the judge's seat, or if you would, I guess you'd say nonpartisan, and inside of that. So it's so interesting. And we're all looking forward to a little brief education on the county court judge and kind of give us some delineation between that and what people may be more familiar with.
Sure, absolutely. The county court is what we call the first level of court in the state system.
Okay.
It is often termed the people's court.
I love
County
it.
court handles matters on the civil side. You've got a civil side and you've got a criminal side. On the civil side, matters of $50,000 or less for
Gotcha.
monetary, but also landlord and tenant, traffic, and things of that nature. On the criminal side, the county court handles misdemeanor crimes that can be sanctions of $1,000 or less, or imprisonment of 1 year or less. And in the county court, and why it's called the people's court, is because oftentimes those who appear, the litigants, are not represented by lawyers. Oftentimes they are what we call pro se. They represent themselves. They aren't familiar with the process. They're not familiar with the laws. In South Florida, oftentimes they don't speak the language.
Wow.
Whereas in the circuit court, you're dealing with, on the criminal side, felonies. Anything from a year imprisonment all the way up to the death penalty.
Wow.
On the civil side, amounts of money from $50,000 to infinity. Whatever a jury decides or a judge is the amount in controversy. So those are the two differences. Most of the people that are in circuit court are represented by lawyers. You have, big companies, you have automobiles, slip and falls, things of that nature that come before. Things such as probate, family law, juvenile law, those are all handled in circuit court. Whereas county court are some people may say are minor issues. But the important thing is, and the reason I'm running for county court judge, I practice in the circuit court, I practice in county as well as federal court.
Yes.
But because I believe that the people who come before the county court need to come before someone who, one, has knowledge of the laws, who
Right.
knows civil procedure, who know criminal procedure, who know evidence, who knows how to implement the right jury instructions. My
Right.
38 years of practice, I have a proven ability to do that. But they also need someone who's going to be compassionate, someone
Mhm.
who's going to be empathetic, someone
Mhm.
who's got life experience, someone
Right.
who has patience. And
Mhm.
I believe that in all of my years and my experience, I serve currently and have for the last 24 years as a juvenile court judge in a quasi judicial capacity. That
Mhm.
is where youth who have committed misdemeanor crimes get an opportunity to learn from their mistakes and not end up going from the schoolhouse to the jailhouse. They
Wow.
get represented by youth attorneys. We have law magnet programs,
Right.
and the students in the law magnet, they act as prosecutors and defendants. So training them, how to be lawyers is akin, and it would serve me well in dealing with unrepresented persons. So having that ability to be patient, to be able to break down the law into concepts that I don't want to say the unlearned, but the unfamiliar with the
Right.
law can understand. The other thing is, oftentimes when people come into court, they don't know the procedures. So
Right.
they need someone who's going to be patient, someone who's going to understand the cultural differences,
Mhm.
such as eye contact or how
Right.
you come dressed to court. And
Right.
oftentimes, our people and people in the minority communities are looked down upon before they even get a chance to have their
Right.
case
Yeah.
heard. And
Yeah.
that should not play any part in the decision to
Wow.
apply the facts to the law. So
Right.
that's my why. I believe that I can best serve our
Wow.
community by being in that seat. And as Maya Angelou says, people don't always remember what you said. They don't remember what you do, but they remember how you made them feel. I
Wow.
may not be able to rule in your favor when it
Mhm.
comes down to the facts and the law, but you will feel like you've been treated with dignity, with respect, and you've had a chance to have your case heard by someone who was prepared, who had read the papers, and who understood what the case was about.
Now,
Attorney
is that
Kennedy,
reassuring?
I have a question. How are the judges selected? Because like on the ballot, it says, do you want to retain this judge and that judge? How, okay, so
Okay,
if
that's a
you vote
different
them out,
level. Um,
okay,
Well,
Okay.
those are Supreme Court judges. In
Okay.
the Florida state system, your county court and your circuit court judges are either appointed or they're elected. Every judge, though, has to run for re-election, even if you're appointed by the governor. So
Okay.
when someone
okay, so the governor
retires
appoints
or
those judges.
resigns, some judges. Now,
Okay,
in this case, the race that I'm in, the county court race, it's an open seat. So there is a
okay,
judge, Judge Ted Boris, has decided he is not running for re-election. So his seat is open. So myself and my opponent applied. We put in to the clerk of courts. The supervisor of elections office, just like any other candidate for
Right.
election. We
Mhm.
applied. We filed the paperwork, and we were qualified. So we are on the ballot. But
Mhm.
when it comes to the appellate level, the
Mhm.
circuit court and the county court are your trial levels. When it comes
Gotcha.
to the appellate level, all of those judges are appointed by the governor. They go through what's called a judicial nominations commission, and their names are vetted, and then they go up to the governor. Now, my name has been vetted at the county court level, at the circuit court level, also at the federal level for a federal magistrate judge
Wow.
to be qualified to go up for appointment. Because I
okay.
have not been appointed by the last three governors, I
Mhm.
found an open seat, and that's why I am running. But with the appellate judges, it's a retention.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So they every I believe it's 4 years, if I'm not mistaken, their name goes on the ballot to determine whether or not the public wants to retain them in that seat. Now, the nuance is, if the majority of the voters say that they don't want them retained, then the governor will appoint someone else in that seat. It wouldn't
Wow.
be an election.
Wow. I mean, you can tell that that's an educator in you. I mean, I'm sitting here and literally in my
Thank
mind
you.
going, boy, okay, now I understand. I mean,
I'm taking notes.
this is absolutely excellent because the fact you just cleared up about at least 7 points I had in my mind that I wasn't even sure on. So listen, first of all, congratulations to all those, if you would, those magnet law students there in school and things, because I mean, I don't know. I mean, literally, I'm sitting here saying, would I not feel a whole lot better knowing that I have a judge who thinks from that standpoint, who think from that process, who's not there to intimidate you, but want to make sure that, hey, you understand that, listen, we are going to weigh the facts against the law. These things are there. Now, at the end of the day, hey, that's what I have to do. But I won't allow you to have an experience that you leave here feeling as if you've been hoodwinked, that you've
That's
been
right.
overlooked, that you've been minimized in any way. And at the end of the day, we both have a peace of mind about where we are. That was absolutely excellent inside of it. Thank you. I now understand more about, boy, I can't wait to vote again. I've already voted. I hope I did the right thing. But no, that was excellent inside
No,
of it.
thank
So
you.
and just to think about all those different levels there, and when people don't understand that, at the end of the day, judges are people, right?
That's
And
right.
so they bring their experiences with them. They bring they bring their experiences. They bring not only their education, intellect, but they bring their experiences and they bring their temperament with them as well.
That's right.
And
That's right.
it's good to know that the fact that you can deal with someone who's going to be fair, who's going to be straight, and who's going to be along that line. That's
I wish
all.
I was in your county. I would vote.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
I-
And
I
it is a
mean-
countywide race.
Yes.
My name will be in the judges on every single ballot.
Hmm.
Wow. Yes.
Yes.
Well, I definitely saw it when I voted. That's for sure. Absolutely. And I just want to say, I don't know about down in Broward County, but I was very impressed with our voting machines in Palm Beach County this year. I was very impressed with how easy it was. And
Oh,
how
good. Good.
I felt so wow. I said to myself,
Okay, so your name was the only one on
Her name
the ballot.
No, I have an opponent. We are
Okay.
the only race for
Right.
election,
Right.
judicial race. A number of years ago, there were probably about 5 different judicial races, but ours is the only judicial race on the ballot.
Okay,
Right.
so it was you and your opponent.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Jean
remember
Marie
that.
Middleton is the name to remember.
Exactly. That is
I actually
absolutely
think I did vote for you
Oh, okay. Thank you.
because when they were doing the judging, when I was looking at the different judges, I actually did because I thought you're female and because female.
Are you in Broward County or Palm Beach County?
I'm in Broward.
Then my name would not have been on your ballot. My name is
Okay.
only on the ballots in Palm Beach County.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Because there was one that there was a
definitely saw
woman.
your name. Yes.
There was a woman and it was met, and I voted for the female
Okay.
because I believe in empowering our queens.
This is the year of the woman.
Yeah. Well, as a man, I've been proclaiming that for quite a while, and I don't apologize for it at all. I foresaw this. I foresaw this here even before the beginning of the year. I just foresaw that this was the year of the woman, and inside of that, I when I talk to my brothers, I'm not saying it from a perspective of gender. I'm saying it from a perspective of the fact of the timing that it is inside of it. There are certain things. That's a certain flavor that women bring. I don't care what. I don't apologize for that. I tell everyone that the only legal interest into this world is through a woman. It's the only legal interest. And so there's something that is nurturing, that is understanding, that's compassionate about that. And oftentimes, and I know this as being a man and growing up with 6 sisters and 5 of them being older than I am, I understand there's a different perspective that they have. If we're honest with ourselves as men, oftentimes we know that a woman has almost what we call a sixth sense. They do. They have a sixth sense about things. Oftentimes it is their what we call women's intuition, but it's their intuition that oftentimes if we listen, that saves us from a lot of trouble, a lot of headache, and oftentimes serves, if you would, as a pause to when we are operating clearly out of our logic and out of those things there. So, I think not only is you're the woman, but I like to say that we're not conceding to a woman. We're simply embracing and acknowledging the fact of what comes with them inside of the gifting that God has given them. So we're not, if you would, we're not acquiescing or condescending, I should say, to something lower. We're just embracing something that has been powerfully and uniquely, if you would, presented to us.
Indeed. So Dr. J says a lot. It's like, okay, what do you?
Yeah, but that is awesome.
But Attorney Jean Marie, what would you say to encourage young women that are trying to get to the next level, not per se as an attorney, but in any goal of being a business owner? Because we've heard so many things thrown out on the presidential trail about, oh, we're gonna no taxes on this, and no this and no that, but it has to go through government. He could say, oh, well, I gave it away, but yeah, he could say whatever he wants. But it's not that easy, and people really don't get that. But how would you encourage women that are single parents that are trying to make it to the next level?
Perseverance.
Yeah.
Quitting is not an option.
Yeah.
And when I mentor young women, I tell them that. So when you have a dream, when you have a goal, don't let anybody limit you. Don't let anybody tell you what you cannot do or become. I have a personal experience. When I was in 6th grade, I was first in band, and I was playing the clarinet, and one of my teachers needed volunteers to play the French horn. Now, the French horn has one of the smallest mouthpieces of an instrument. And he told me, oh, you can't play the French horn because your lips are too big. Wow. And I told him, you will not tell me what I cannot do.
Wow.
And he said, well, if you can hit the upper C octave, then I'll let you play French horn. And of course, I was able to do that. And I decided as a 6th grader that no one would ever tell me what I could not do. And so that's what I like to share with young ladies. I mentor high school students, I mentor college students and law students. And whatever your passion is, go after it. I have been trying to be a judge for almost 15 years. My name first went up to Governor Jeb Bush when I put in to be a judge. And every time I got a no, I just kept going. I said, I'm not going to give up. And people said, oh, you should just stop. They're never going to appoint you. I said, maybe not. But if I don't try, I absolutely won't get appointed. And so there hasn't been an open judicial seat since 2016. So this has been the first. And I didn't want to run. I honestly did not want to run. I didn't want to be in the political arena. But I also knew that God had destined me to be a judge. And if I was going to do it, I was going to have to run because I was not going to be appointed, at least by none of the governors that we've had recently.
Right.
So I'm living what I tell others. Don't give up.
You know, I've had an experience like that. One of my great aunts said to me that I wasn't going to be anything. I was going to have a bunch of kids and never amount to anything. And after I graduated from high school, I kept hearing that voice telling me I wasn't going to do and I wasn't going to be. And that was like a driving force for me to say, I'm going to prove you wrong. And I tell you what, it was so liberating to have been an accomplished woman, and she got a chance to see it before she left this earth. And I had a chance to confront her. And I said, do you remember you told me I wasn't going to be anything? And she was like, I said that. And I said, oh, yes. I said, yes. I said, and that has been my driving force. She says, well, you are somebody and you have done and accomplished, and I knew you could do it. I said, well, why did you say that? She said, because I knew you could do it. But, you know, I brought that up to say this. There's a lot of times that you speak things over somebody's life. In this dispensation we're in now with our young generation, they are dealing with mental issues, and it kind of destroys them. It doesn't empower, it destroys. So how do you think that us as an adults can continue to feed the next generation, because they're going to be ruling the world?
That's right.
And we want them to rule the world sane.
Exactly.
And you just can't just be throwing out things and saying things. And we certainly don't want to have this next generation in jail trying to make it on the outside because they felt that they couldn't make it, and the only thing they could do is do the marijuana, which is on the ballot, which is one of my pet peeves. And I've been arguing with everybody that says vote yes for Amendment 3. I still say no, because I believe that it would further incarcerate a lot of our young people of color, because the vote is for 21 and above. So what happens to those that are 20 and under? They will be going through the judicial system because they don't listen. So
what I encourage my own grandchildren, my daughter, is to be positive, to speak life into them. Yes, they're going to make mistakes, but correction with love, correcting not with a hammer or with a heavy hand, but letting them know, yes, you've made a mistake. It's okay to make mistakes, because that's how we learn. Mm-hmm. We learn from making mistakes, but also celebrating even the small things. You know, my 5-year-old grandson, he's learning to tie his shoe. If he gets it right, making a big deal, celebrating those things that they are doing well, and not just focusing on what they're not, because society's already telling them what they're doing wrong, what they're not doing, but encouraging them through the positives of what they are doing right.
Mm-hmm. Do you know that it is so much easier for individuals that come from other countries to come in and take reign and persevere and press through? What do you think the difference in between those here in the U.S. versus those that come international and get educations, and they're checking our pulse, they're in our court system?
That's a good question. Candidly, I haven't really given a whole lot of thought to it, but I think it's more because most of them are coming from a country that may not have the opportunities that we have. They don't take it for granted like we do. We have things here, and when things are so easy, or when things seem to be at our fingertips, if you will, we tend to take it for granted. And those who may have come from other that they appreciate it more.
I agree.
That's
why the show is called Change. Can we handle it? A lot more change is going to take place, but we have to persevere. We have to actually get up in the mornings, brush our teeth, go outside and explore the world, and take advantage of the many, many opportunities that are there, and not sit back waiting for someone to hand us something.
Correct.
No, I look at you and with all your accomplishment, and I'm like, well done, my sister, well done. And I appreciate and celebrate you. And I hope so many young people are watching and see you and said, I want to aspire to be like her. I can do it. I can make it, regardless of what it looks like, because it's going to look bad and it's going to feel like overwhelming you, like you're not going to make it, but you didn't give up. You pressed forward, and I salute you for that.
You know, and I have to say,
Thank you so much.
You gave a lot of the accomplishment, but I realized off of my head that you left even some things off, you know, in terms of serving as either president or vice president of the different bar associations.
That's true.
And things with women. And I think those things are very important, because the fact, once again, you know, one thing I do know is there's something about perseverance. There's also things about preparation that means everything. And I think even sharing your story about that band director who literally just made a decision that you would not be able. Isn't it something, one thing to say, we need someone to do so, and then when you step up, they say, oh no, you couldn't do that. And the fact of that is a life lesson, because we will always encounter individuals, of even systems who will tell us that what we cannot do. And the thing about
That's
it,
right.
I can so greatly appreciate you taking this opportunity because of that opening to run for judge, because we're not going to leave our fate in the hands of, of a governor or whatsoever. They may say no, but we know that the heart of the king is still even in the hands of God. So, so we
Amen.
know that, inside of that. So I want to applaud you. I want to thank you for being with us tonight. And I definitely want people to remember your name, those you particularly in Palm Beach County, and those you that may be watching from other places, but you have relatives and friends in Palm Beach County. Encourage them to get out to vote, and definitely encourage them that when it comes to voting for county court judge, there's a name on the ballot that they need to remember. It's very simple. It's Jean Marie Middleton inside of that to get out to vote. So definitely give us some of your closing comments and things like that, because I want people to get out and exercise their privilege and their right to vote.
And
Thank you so much.
So if you don't know who individuals are, I encourage you Google stuff, Google this.
That's right. That's
Look
right.
it up.
Exactly. Do your homework. I appreciate that people that I've met out on the campaign trail said, I went to your website, I looked at you, I saw what your experience and your background was. And I appreciate that. Don't just go by word of mouth. Look at the candidates, see who's qualified, see what they're passionate about, what things they stand for. I am the best candidate in this race because I am the most qualified. I have the breadth and depth of experience. I have the temperament. I have been proven, in addition to serving as president-elect of the Palm Beach County Bar Association, which I was elected unopposed. I was appointed by the Florida Bar president to be chair of the entire professionalism committee. I was appointed to be vice chair of one of the grievance committees here for ethics. So I have the ethics, I have the professionalism that is necessary and needed to be a county court judge. And therefore, I ask for your vote and thank you for the gift of your time and allowing me to come on your show and to share just a little bit about me, about the county court, and what some of the differences are between the levels of court systems.
Well, thank you once again. I tell you, we've been educated,
Thank
right?
you.
We've been educated, and thank you so very
Thank
much
you.
for being with us. Absolutely.
My pleasure.
All right. Thank you.
But this has been great. I was really literally educated about some things that I did not have the correct perception of. So I feel better now. I really do. Wow.
Yes, this whole
Thank you.
month has been very enlightening and encouraging and
Yeah.
educational wise for me to have more of a pulse of what's going on here in the community, Dr. J, because we don't know what we don't know.
Exactly.
That's the
And-
bottom line. We don't know what we don't know. And when you don't know, you ask questions. And, that's why this platform is so important to have individuals where they can speak and educate us on what we need to know.
Absolutely. And we definitely want to encourage the audience that's watching tonight. I mean, if you're watching and everything, please feel free to put in a comment. I really meant to ask you if you had any other questions or you have a comment that you would like to share with us, please do so. All of us are going to encounter change. And when we say that, we don't say change as a way of scaring you, but we talk about change because it's a reality. Change in of itself is inevitable. It will happen. But then there are certain changes that happen when we do it. People don't change until they change. And that's just as simple as that. The thing about it, when change happens and you seemingly have no control of it, are you able to handle it? In other words, are you able to rise to the occasion regardless of what have happened? Are you able to be resilient enough to be able to still navigate the waters in the turbulence of life? Because it comes. But one of the things that make it easier to navigate is having an understanding. Have an understanding of what's around you. And not only that, having a very strong, if you would, foundation, a resilient, something that you stand on and that you stand for, and that regardless of what may come, that you're not easily shaken by people who oppose you. You're not easily shaken by people who may not agree with you, but rather you allow that to be your motivating factor, that you don't lose your mojo, you don't lose your strength, you don't lose your momentum because change happened. Oftentimes it is that opportunity that is presented to us that causes us to, if you would, to refocus, to reset, so that we may relaunch.
Absolutely, Dr. J. And as I said at the top of the show, that it is Domestic Violence Month.
Absolutely.
We went through the whole month because we've been consumed, but we talk about domestic violence all year long because it doesn't take a holiday, it doesn't take a break. People are losing their lives, they're being abused every day, and 1 out of 4 women are victims of domestic violence. And bullying, school is back in. Bullying is domestic violence. So pay attention to your child, their mannerism, and participate in their lives. Ask them how their day went, and ask them about their teachers, because teachers can be bullies too. So make sure that you be proactive in the life of your children. And those of you that are working with individuals, pay attention to your coworkers. See if you notice anything that's going on differently, and maybe you can lend a hand, be some assistance to them, and be friendly. I always say, that there's a lot of people going through depression because they feel so alone, they feel so isolated that nobody cares, and they feel invisible. But, I want you to take the time to just smile at someone, or to say hello or goodbye. Let them know that they're not invisible. And also it validates you to let you know that you're not invisible either, and that your life matters. So be proactive with individuals around you, because you could save their life. Someone takes their life and then you be like, wow, I didn't see that coming. They seem so happy. They seem so joyous. But then in the back of their mind, the enemy within is telling them, if you weren't here, you wouldn't be missed. So make sure that you show someone some kindness. Be kind to one another. Don't look at the top of what the people are throwing out on the media and stuff, because by one word there, before this current administration was office, they just said something about the Asians, and the Asians were being attacked. All it takes for somebody to say one word and we're all exposed to danger. So be proactive and know who's in your community, and protect and look after one another. That's the only way we're going to win. Regardless of who is elected in office, we have to be ready for change, and we have to be able to handle it mentally. I'm not even talking about financially. I'm talking about mentally, because this country is being crippled mentally because of fear.
Yeah.
So we have got to pull ourselves together and stand like a nation full of power. And we can only do that when we know who we are as individuals. You're worth it, you matter, and you have a brilliant future in front of you, but you have to participate in your own rescue. And it's Cancer Awareness Month. One of the most crippling things is to go to the doctor and they tell you you have cancer, and all these things rush through your head, because when you hear I have cancer, your life is immediately over. You like, I'm going to die right now, I'm going to die tomorrow. But society has so many the advances that they've done to counteract so many cases. So look for professional help, get second and third opinions, and you can go from there. Seek help. There's a lot of resources out for cancer and for domestic violence. So we want to make sure that we encourage you. Don't stop, and don't feel that your life is over based on your current situation or circumstance.
And absolutely. And I like to take it from an angle, when we start talking about both the issue of domestic violence and Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I want to speak particularly to men. Right about now, there is something going on live about Black Men Summit, and talk about things. But I want to speak to men, the men that may not be watching that show right now or who may catch this. So often we look at things in society and we call them women issues. But I want you to know they're not women issues, they're societal issues. And I want you to know that even when it comes to something like breast cancer awareness, consider this. Though most breast cancer victims are women, men also get breast cancer. But particularly I want to speak to men who need to understand, for the woman that is in your life, whether she's your wife, your significant other, your mother, your sister, your daughter, your niece, or whoever, brothers, we ought to be concerned enough about making sure that they're okay. We ought to be concerned enough to know that when they have appointments and things, they need to go and things like that, be there, be emotional support, be a support to them inside of it. Many women, when they start now, having mammograms, and they're doing it at an earlier age now, especially women of color, because of the, if you would, they're more predisposed to have breast cancer. We as men, what is it that we can do? Well, we can not only be an encouraging factor, we can be there as a voice of support, but we can also be there to walk them through whatever fears that they have. That ought to be on our agenda. One of the things as men, we have to learn to be more empathetic with our women in our lives, empathetic and caring and loving towards them inside of those things. That same principle apply when it comes to domestic violence. To every brother out there who has a sister, who has a mother, who has a niece, who has a daughter, who has a wife, you and I ought to be concerned about the issue of domestic violence. 1 in 4 women do experience domestic violence and abuse in their lifetime. I understand that 1 in 9 men will experience it well, and we don't minimize it. But I want to say to every brother, every man, domestic violence is our business as well. We should be voices that stand up. We ought to check and hold other brothers accountable. And what do I mean? That doesn't mean that you grab him in his collar and things like that. Not necessarily. I'm not saying do physical harm. But what I am saying is that we ought to stand up and hold our homeboys accountable. In other words, hey, man, that's not the way we roll. That's not the way that we handle our queens. That's not the way that we handle a woman. Bruh, is it really that serious? Do you, hey, man, come on. Because at the end of the day, consider this. Our children learn from us. Children learn what they live. And they learn these type things. They learn these type behavior. We wonder why our young boys, think about the number of young men who are incarcerated, who have lost jobs, who have lost careers because of the fact of the issue of domestic violence. They end up in jail. They end up because of the fact they are now have become a victim of that culture that tells them somehow or another that they have a right to do so, that they are the man, they're in control, they have this power here, and they have been told that they run things. And what does run things mean? The real way to run things is to be honorable and to honor that which you have in terms of it. Any person who cannot admit or cannot accept the fact that they are not perfect, that they also make mistakes and they are wrong, automatically is on the wrong side of the equation in a relationship. For every brother, for every man out there, what am I saying to you? We have to man up and we have to stand up against domestic violence. We have to man up and we have to stand up and speak out against it. It is not a woman's issue. It's a societal issue. Let me say something. Talk to the man. Talk to the man who has lost his daughter to domestic violence. Talk to the man who has lost his sister to domestic violence. Talk to the brother who has lost his sister or have lost his mother to domestic violence. This is a serious issue. And I challenge every brother out there right now, whether you are a title, whether you're in a fraternity, whether you hold an office, whether you're in a pulpit, I challenge you to dig deep within yourself and really ask yourself a question. What part of domestic violence is right? What part of it is right? What part serves us in any way in terms of lifting our future? What part of it serves us in any way of raising healthy, well-rounded individuals? What does it do to our young men? It gives them a poor image of what it is to be a man. It gives them a misrepresentation of what it means to be a leader. It gives them a misrepresentation to what women mean and should mean to us. This is what we must do when it comes to the issue of domestic violence. Brother Darius, you cannot apologize yourself away out of domestic violence. You cannot approach it. Well, bro, if she didn't make me so mad, this is not a matter of being mad. It is a matter of your behavior. It's a matter of your mindset. It's a matter of those things there. And you ought to want to break that cycle. You ought to want to break it. You ought to want to be that man that stands up and say, look, man, not in my house. I end on this note here. I am a very proud father. I have one daughter and I have 4 sons. And let me say something to you. My daughter is the apple of my eye. But by the same token, I owe it to my sons to model to them what it is to be a man, to model to them not only the way that they treat, the way that they speak, the way that they handle, the way that they view, their perception, their worldview of women has to be one that is healthy. First of all, she's not a doormat. She's not your property. She is not something that you just take possession of. No, you've got to recognize and you have to honor that and understand what that means. Because a real man, an honorable man, recognizes this, that I gain no brownie points. I gain no status in life. I get no higher rung on the ladder when I mistreat a woman, when I choose to abuse her, to put her down, to practice all kind of misogynistic type of thing. We only become the real man when we rise to the occasion and say, listen, I don't care if I grew up seeing it. Lord, it stops here with me. I don't want to perpetuate that. And I smile and I laugh because I have a 5-year-old grandson. Well, I have 2 5-year-old grandsons, but one particular one is interesting how his mindset already, he have observed inside a thing. He believes in being polite. He doesn't want his mother or any other woman to touch the door. He opens the door and says, no, let me get it. Let me get it. I got it. Where did he get that from? That's generational. He's seen that model. That was modeled by his uncles, and it's been modeled by their dad. And guess what? He understands it. It is really that simple. The fact that we can entreat, that we learn how to have conversation, we learn how to value one another. At the end of the day, abuse is not love, and love is not abuse. We must do better.
Indeed, Dr. J. Thank you so much for, wrapping up the show with that and coming from you as a man who has a nonprofit Destiny by Choice for domestic violence, and mine is the Soul of a Woman's Foundation. So we want to thank all of you who've tuned in. We have Dolly, Auntie M, Charlene, Mary, Nicole. Thank you all for your comments as we've been talking throughout the show, and we hope this information has enlightened and inspired you to be the best that you can be. And tomorrow I'm doing a special show at 6 p.m. We're going to talk about local government, why it is important for you to vote. So until tomorrow, good night and God bless. And don't forget to subscribe to Hot Topics from the Soul. Good night and God bless.
Good night. God bless.